Hello and welcome to the PowerSwitch, gaming's call-in talk radio show. My name is Peter Spezia. Thank you for tuning in. This is the second SPOILERcast that the PowerSwitch has done, and we use Discord as a means to add and drop callers to talk about video games and switch the power that is found in a typical gaming podcast. You can join our server to participate during recordings at rhymeswithasia.com/call. And so yes, let's get it out of the way. SPOILERcast for Persona 5. If you have not had credits roll on Persona 5, you may want to skip this episode. Come back when you finish the game, because we're going to talk about all things no holds barred, spoilers everywhere for Persona 5. And there is a lot to talk about. We have, quite a few people lined up to call in today and talk about it. That's, kind of what makes our show different with SPOILERcast compared to other gaming podcasts. We have people call in to discuss whatever they'd like to about the game in particular. And that differs to our other episodes where, we're talking about gaming news and any gaming related topic. But for these, we want to talk generally about a month after the game has come out, give people enough time to beat it, and so we can talk about spoilers freely here. So with Persona 5, let's kind of start, I guess, from my perspective. And for these, we had The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild as our first episode, and we kind of talked about just different talking points that when you're talking about a game like this, what are the different things that you may want to bring up with different people. So I kind of made a similar list with Persona 5, and I wanted to give you my perspective before we get to our callers and talk about those subjects. So let's start with my personal playthrough stats. I played on easy, which I just learned is only different than normal based on the damage taken. I mean, the damage dealt is the same compared to normal. The amount of experience you get is the same. The amount of money you get is the same. But enemies deal half as much damage to you on easy compared to normal. So that was interesting to kind of see after the fact. When you go down to safety one more time, it's that same 0.5x half times damage received as it, same as easy there. But then it's, double damage dealt. You have 3 times the experience and then 5 times the money. So there is a big difference, I guess, from safety compared to easy, but I played on easy compared to normal. I played for 85 hours. I know some people, past 100, and that's really impressive, but that was probably some more grinding time, some longer times working through the different palaces. I got up to level 73 by game's end. I maximized all of my personality aspects, so you had the knowledge, you had the charm, you had diligence, everything there, guts, and I'm missing one more. But yeah, everything maxed on the personality there. And I got 17 out of 21 social links maxed. So I fell short on, I think I was rank 6 on Emperor Yusuke. I was rank 3 on Fortune. So that was Chihaya. I was rank 3 on Tower. The Kid. I really did not spend much time. I just wanted to get that, I guess, initial ability, which proved helpful for sure. But I was more focusing at the end of the game, not leveling his social link up, or his confidant level up, but kind of more focusing on teammates like Haru, who I did max. Then the fourth one that I did not max was Hanged Man. So that was EY, and I think I got to around level 7 or something like that. I completed his Mementos mission, but never anything beyond that. So I got pretty close. If I ever do a New Game Plus, that should be easy to continue complete. And that was kind of I guess, the summation overall of what my gameplay stats were like. But getting right into the spoiler discussion, I know a lot of people happen to have this game spoiled for them. I was one of them, and it was really by game's end, to the point where when you come across the one spoiler and it's well, yeah, I was kind of putting that together in my head. So let's talk about that main spoiler for one. I would guess if people were spreading one spoiler around the internet, it would be saying, oh, Akechi is the traitor. Akechi betrays you. And it's interesting when you're following the game in Japan, just briefly, not any story spoilers or anything like that, but when you're seeing its kind of promotion there, and you're seeing different things happen there. I guess I knew for a while that Akechi would be a party member. And this was only affirmed by, certain aspects of the game. Even when you boot it up, they did not shy away from the fact that Akechi would be a big part of your team. You load up the game and the splash screen before, all the roles there. I mean, the splash screen has a portrait for him along with all of your other party members. On the title screen, there are enough people there. That includes Akechi. Akechi is technically on the title screen, and he's there with a big beak. And so certain aspects, as the game develops, it's like, you're joining really late. You're very skeptical of the Phantom Thieves. I don't really trust you. And so I'm going through the game, playing it, and just like, I'm a little hesitant to kind of, discuss, certain things with Akechi. I'm not going to warm up too friendly to him, but I'll kind of keep him at a distance. And then when it starts to move, towards the end, is he like, well, I want to join and I want to help you guys. You even had the bit with Okumura at his palace. I think that was the one real sign that it's like, yeah, something's really not right with Akechi, where they show Okumura being murdered by the man in black, the Black Mask, and he has a long beak. Like that assassin has a long beak. I'm like, well, who else has a long beak on the title screen? It'd be Akechi, who I kind of haven't trusted this whole time. And, sure enough, it develops, the way that it does. So really that wasn't too surprising. I was even, picking up on, they were doing some of the blurred transitions, that was supposed to be like, oh, you the memory loss, you can't really remember. I was even, noticing those and be like, that's different. Something's with that. Like, that's not right. Why are they doing that? Oddly enough, I never picked up on pancakes. I looking back on that, it's like, oh yeah, that is like the big linchpin there. Like, how did I miss that? But it was all these other elements of foreshadowing that, like, yeah, it's not that bad in hindsight to be spoiled that Akechi betrays you, because it's pretty obvious, I would say, the whole time. So I guess, for those that enter the game spoiled with that, don't, I guess, if you're listening to it now, you shouldn't really take that to heart in kind of hindsight there. The next big, reveal, I guess, then is Shido being the mastermind. And again, very easy to predict when you're seeing the man's face and you run into him again on the street, and it's this bald figure who keeps showing up on television, and it's just like, yep, it's going to make narrative sense that the two are connected by fate, and it all comes back. Yep, him being a major player. Like, again, that was not a surprise at all. It made too much sense in a way. You talk about some of the twists in Persona 4 there, and they almost wanted to say, oh, well, we didn't want to make it, too obvious. They maybe thought that it was too obvious in Persona 4. Like, no, this game was too obvious in its, who's like the mastermind setting it up all behind the scenes, as far as Akechi betraying you. And you're cutting to the investigator, the head captain, the head police guy. Oh, the old guy, Kirk Thornton, bald head, white. He's Sai's boss. Just when he's communicating, like obviously you're talking to Shido. Oh, and we're gonna use his skills. Obviously you're talking about Akechi. Like, it got to the point where, like, the shoes hadn't dropped on the big reveal for those characters, but it's like, I'm seeing what you're doing. Like, come on. So those reveals, those were one thing. When you got to the Velvet Room and the corruption of the Velvet Room, and how, obviously, again, if you're familiar with Persona games, you knew that it was all going to come down to a godly entity is behind the whole thing, and you need to use the power of friendship to save the day. Like, obviously it's going in that direction, but it's like, okay, well, who's the godly villain? Like, what's the tie-in and all that? For all the people to complain about Igor and his voice, the very deep voice, and it's very menacing in the beginning, and yeah, odd casting choice from Japan. We were all kind of saying, like, okay, that's a little weird, but some people, it really bothered them. It's like, oh, I don't know. It's a big red flag. It might ruin the game for me. Like, to think that it was all purposeful, that the Velvet Room was corrupted by the evil god Yaldabaoth, and that Lavenza was the attendant of the room to be split in two with Caroline and Justine, and that was the best twist in the game, clearly. To think that, Igor, with tying all with the death of the Japanese voice actor, and they've been kind of using some patchwork for the last couple games. Now, when the real Igor was revealed and the voice was off just enough, it's like, yeah, I get the payoff that you're going for here, but it is off just enough. But like, I get there was, some closure there. There's a good there. Morgana being created by Igor as kind of the last hope for humanity. That was nice. Although, so Morgana, much more likable than Teddy, certainly as a mascot, I would say. However, the bit when Morgana started getting pissy with then leaving and finding the beauty thief with Haru, and I get that, being treated rough by Ryuji. I mean, Ryuji is just treats everybody roughly, certainly. But when it started to be like, I got something to say, and the protagonist is like, oh, let's go to sleep for the 500th time, and it's like, no, I don't want to talk about it. Like, stop it. So go out and just say what you have to say instead of cause all this drama. I think that's the story beat I liked the least, because it was, I get for the character progression, it almost had to be done, but it was so unnecessary slogging through it. Anyway, those, the big spoiler story beats, the first couple, very obvious to tell, even though, many people were going around like, oh, Akechi, love him, but, he's going to betray you. Like, not necessary to do that. But I don't think that ruins the game. I think if you get spoiled on the Igor thing, I think that's the most unfortunate aspect of it. Now let's get a little more lighthearted, I suppose. My romance choice. I was going into the game thinking like, oh, Futaba's probably the cutest out of all. My gut said probably gonna lean towards romancing her. Makoto. Clear and away Makoto. Futaba ended up being, it's too much of a little sister complex kind of thing. Even if you max Sojiro's Hierophant confidant arc, he basically even says like, hey, don't get with Futaba. And it's like, I won't, coffee dad. But yeah, Makoto, and I think her role in particular, not just, being more intelligent and just the confidence there, helpful to use in battle with the nuclear skills, interesting. We can also talk about, if you want to call in, the addition of the extra elements in battle that kind of mix things up a little bit, calling back old Persona types there. But yeah, Makoto, I think, had an extra role played in the story to be tied in with Sai and have her sister be the investigator that you keep calling back to. So when people say like, oh who's Canon Bay? Like, I would argue it's Makoto, because there is that extra story thread there. It made it even more awful on Christmas Eve in the game. And who are you spending it with? And the idea was, the next day you were going to turn yourself into the police to spare, the fates of your teammates. And it was just that extra, just twist in the gut. Like, the knife is just more painful, that like she knows you're lying to her, that you've made a deal with her sister to turn yourself in, but you can't tell her to ruin the evening. It was awful. It sucked so much, but Valentine's Day, it was nice. It made up for it. I'd be interested to hear who you guys romance. I mean, that's a big talking point with all the Persona games as of late in particular. Made it interesting when you started adding older characters like Takemi, the doctor, or if you wanted to, Oya, the reporter, probably the worst choice. Or even if you were down with the teacher, that would certainly be an interesting option as well. But to have those older characters, kind of added a more roguish element to the game, I suppose. Different options for sure. Would love to hear about those. Personas used at the end of the game. I fused Trumpeter. Definitely used that. Debilitate was certainly helpful. But I had Thor as a backup. So those were kind of the main two I was going back and forth between at the end. Just curious kind of how you guys roll, towards the end game there. But yeah, we can certainly talk about if you call in, different elements that you liked about whether it's, Kamoshida's castle or Madarame's museum. You had Kanashiro's bank, Futaba's tomb, Okumura's outer space, Nijima's casino. You had Shido's ship, the depths of mementos, or you even had Shibuya, the hell on earth at the end. So there's certainly a lot of things to talk about, what you liked about, different palaces, what stood out, all those kind of things. Different story beats there. Kind of interesting to see those all laid out in particular. Ultimately, to compare it to other Persona games, at this moment, I would still say Persona 4 Golden is my favorite game still of all time. Now, Persona 5, right behind there. Persona 5, better as a game in nearly every way. Loved having the confidants provide extra abilities that impacted the real world. Just a lot of big improvements. I mean, for Kawakami, the teacher, to be able to cook, different things, curry and coffee, and to give you a massage if you got that, social link rank high enough, to kind of save time there. Those were huge helps. And, just playing it I felt a lot better. I mean, just the animation and the gameplay, gorgeous. Everything was so right about that game. But your main party, some characters, I mean, they're all likable to an extent, I would say. But they don't feel iconic yet. Persona 4's characters felt iconic. They felt like, they could be your friends in real life, if that makes sense. And the way the game ended, especially in Persona 4, just heartbreaking, just a real emotional gut punch to have to leave them behind and actually say goodbye. And for this game, it made sense, everyone kind of going on a heist, what's next? What's the next adventure? To kind of, I know you have to leave, but let's go for a drive. And, we have this cat steal the spark plug from the police to make the van go. But it was a more, lighthearted sort of ending, and it felt like everything was told. Like the story that you wanted to tell and had to tell with the Phantom Thieves, everything had been told. Whereas Persona 4 made you feel like that I want more adventures with these people. And so I think that's the real emotional resonance personally with me. I mean, I cannot wait to play a New Game Plus. That's going to be real fun to go back to Persona 5 and do that. We'll really enjoy doing so because it's just a better game. But right now, at least as it stands, Persona 4 and the times I've played that means more to me personally. So I would love to hear what you guys have to say. When we come back, we will get to the callers. You can bring up anything about Persona 5. Would love to hear what you have to say, but you can also bring up what another caller has to say too. That's all when we come back here on the Power Switch.
You never see it coming. You see that my mind is too fast for eyes. You're done.
Welcome back to the Power Switch. Let's get talking about all things Persona 5. I've kind of said what I wanted to at the start of the show here, but the power of the show is really in the hands of you, the callers, and the listeners as well. So let's hear what you guys have to say. Looking forward to that. Joining us from Colorado, ZeroRanma. Welcome back to the Power Switch.
Good to be here, dude.
Hey, no problem. I mean, I think you were the first one in our community to finish the game.
Oh boy, did I!
So I'm certainly curious to hear your thoughts on what you think regarding Persona 5.
So let me know what I did. No one should do.
What's that?
I beat the game not once but twice within 3 weeks.
Oh my god! Oh man! So how many hours is that? That's got to be a long time.
That's like a good 150 hours.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Do the math there, people.
I did a lot of cutscenes in the second round, but did skip a lot of them. And yeah, it went through a lot easier, right? Since I knew what I was doing, and I did use a guide and stuff. But otherwise, yeah, I went insane playing this game.
Well, it's an excellent game. It's certainly going to be up there for
it's my personal game of the year.
Yeah.
To be honest,
I think I'm feeling the same way about it as well. I mean, if I had a voice in the industry and I had to pick an industry game of the year, I still think it's going to be Breath of the Wild. I don't think anyone's going to be able to beat Legend of Zelda.
Zelda is absolutely going to be game of the year for everyone, but
yeah, personally, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Personally, Persona 5.
Yeah.
So, oh boy, where do we start? Probably one of the coolest endgame personas that you get for your main character.
Yeah, Satanael, and that was really cool.
Let me tell you, on New Game Plus, when you fuse him, he is a fucking giant.
I bet, yeah.
When you summon him, and it zooms out because he's that huge.
Wow.
From the main battle.
Well, he has to kind of go on scale with Yaldabaoth, so...
Yeah. Story-wise, by the time Goro came into the party, it was definitely skeptical. And, the way he kind of like pressured you, no, we can't rob the place until this date. That's like, okay, that's suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sad thing that he doesn't join back at any point in time after, because if you do level him up, you see that he has a pretty good moveset, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, to cover both, the bless and the curse skills, like those are good.
Yeah, he covers those. He's got debilitate, which is really handy for boss fights. And just overall good attack and stuff.
I know I wasn't going to like attach any items onto him or whatever, because like I'm pretty sure you're going to betray us.
You get it back, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It was good to sell his items. That was a good chunk of change there.
Yeah. So my first playthrough was on safety because I just, first time through, I wanted to just go through without any issues. Second time through was on combination of both easy and normal. Easy for the beginning of the game, just to, get my bearings and not have to deal with too much stress from Kamoshida's dungeon, which is arguably the hardest one because of SP management.
Yeah, just the pacing there.
And then I think the cruise was the biggest pain in the ass because it's just so long and tedious. That and space.
Yeah, I'd say the ship was tough. I happened to do it in one in-game day. I just had enough, items saved up, coffees and curries and whatnot. But it was just a long time to play. I mean, you can kind of see like, beat my 5 generals and you'll get me. I certainly wasn't expecting being thrown into the back-to-back boss fights of, it's Akechi, and then it's going to be Akechi with Loki, and then it's just back-to-back nonstop. I'm like, give me a heal point at least. Like I didn't want to go like right into that battle like I wasn't totally healed up. I'm leaving the ship. Come on.
Yeah, after fighting the Yakuza dude, I just kind of I went out. I didn't heal anyone. And then coming across Akechi, and that was not ideal. Mm-hmm. I had to use a bunch of coffees during the battle. Yeah. And stuff. But it wasn't too bad, all things considered.
Somas in particular were just godlike. I know they've been helpful in games past, but I think the one thing I do miss the fox. Say what you will. All your yens, yep. But
SP is merciless in this game.
Yeah, it's really tough.
Yeah, the final end mementos wasn't too bad. They at least gave you a couple safe rooms and free heals at the beginning. So
yeah. I mean, with the depths of mementos, like doing all the different step puzzles, those were interesting, I guess. If a little tedious. It wasn't hard. Yeah, right.
Compared to things like rat puzzles and airlocks.
Oh yeah,
and trying to find the senior manager's ID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I for the rat stuff, the mice, I got into one battle because I was trying to like get it like right on the edge of a room where like that boundary was, and like I misjudged it, and you ran, you took some heavy damage, whatever, you heal it up, it was fine. But at least like those made sense. Like you were always looking for that extra, that little hole, just always looking for that, just, hold down L2 to kind of get your senses about you. It made sense, kind of the progression that had to be done with the mice puzzles, but it was tedious. It wasn't hard. It was just, there were so many of them. Yeah. A lot of busy work. And then the one where there was a rat puzzle and then you get to the end of it and there's another rat puzzle in the next section. That's like, oh my God, just let it end. Yeah. And even with Shibuya, you have Lavenza there who's like, I can heal you, just come back and talk to me. But you make so much progress and you're like, I don't want to go back because what if there's respawning enemies? you leave and you come back. What if the enemies? I didn't want to do that. I just kept progressing onward and upward there.
Yeah, I pushed that whole section just all the way to the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
It wasn't too bad. I mean, it helps that I was definitely over leveled because I abused Reaper so much.
Oh, see, I had not faced Reaper. I haven't done that. I was thinking of a more New Game Plus, dropping it down to safety on that point.
Okay, so the thing with the Reaper, not a lot of people know this, but on certain days in the year, there is a thing called flu season, which affects mementos by occasionally inflicting enemies with despair.
Yes, yeah.
Including the Reaper.
Mm-hmm. That's handy.
And despair, in 3 turns, the enemy will kill themselves.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's basically what I abused to get my levels up to ungodly modes.
Mm-hmm. Pretty handy there.
And then on New Game Plus, I decided, well, you know what? I've gotten quite a few levels. Let's try and take on the bonus boss. Surely that can't be bad.
Yeah. How is that?
It was bad.
like rough. First of all, the bonus boss is the Wardens.
Yeah, it's Caroline and Justine. So the bonus boss works in a very special manner where you need to be dealing equal damage to both of them at the same time, because if one is killed before the other will revive them with half HP, and the HP they have is obnoxiously huge.
Yeah.
And they're already like dealing out absurd amounts of attacks of varying elements, and they will absolutely exploit your teammates' weaknesses. But hey, reward at the end, Omnipotent Orb.
That's pretty good. So you romanced Futaba, if I'm correct. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, and everyone looks down on me for doing so.
what was that like?
That romance was very sweet, so I was fine with it.
It's interesting. I think there's merits for romancing each. If you wanted to, just do it individually. Don't be the cheating playboy.
Don't be the cheating scumbag.
You don't want Sojiro's chocolate on Valentine's Day. Go look up that scene if you're curious. Yeah,
just don't date multiple people. It will absolutely end badly for you.
So I kind of like that change. That's good that makes sense. It kind of gives you a little more stake in the game. Like, pick one. Like you gotta.
Persona 4, you just feel like a scumbag afterwards, but there's no real negative consequence.
Right. Just don't pick. Oh yeah, that one doesn't make sense. I think they just created that character. Like, we want the voice of Yukiko, but just do her drunk voice for the start of it.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the same in Japan or not.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what it was in America, though. I think that is a romance option. Like, that didn't work as well, but it's interesting to hear what different people have to say regarding that. So
yeah, other than that, I did get the platinum trophy for the game. Okay. Which,
congratulations, that's quite an accomplishment.
By the end of the game, by the end of my New Game Plus, when I was at the end, and I still didn't have that Futaba voice line, I was like, oh god, I need to get my party into some serious shit. So I cranked the difficulty all the way up to the final max difficulty. Just took on bad guys at the end, let them ambush me, let them go to town on my party. I mean, it didn't matter to me. I was immune to everything.
Yeah, I think that's really what it took. I mean, because I was on easy and at the end, I had it pop and totally did not expect that. I did not get the Rise trophy ever in Persona 4 Golden. I think it was because the same thing. I never found it difficult. That's the only
one I'm missing in Golden.
Yeah, I guess that was the thing. I never found it really difficult. So that's really what you need is, like, oh, this is a really tough enemy, or, oh gosh, are you all right? And a lot of things like that. Yeah. So I had that pop in Shibuya on that final grind. I was like, what the hell? So that surprised me, but I don't know if I'm ever going to go back and say, it's going to be interesting to see if I ever do get the platinum, but yeah, kudos to you. That's awesome.
Honestly, it's not a hard platinum trophy at all. Just 2 playthroughs, once you're on your second run and you're just maxing everyone out, it goes by a lot quicker if you maxed out Kawakami on the first run.
Yep.
Because the massage carries over.
That's pretty awesome.
So you can get it as early as whenever you get her.
Wow.
Social link started.
That's pretty amazing. And then you got to be good at baseball.
Well, yeah, just reload.
Yep.
You just have to get the home run and then reload again, and then that's your free time again. So whatever.
Yeah, and that'll help in the New Game Plus. I mean, to read all of the books and to play all of the games and all those sorts of things that you just didn't have the time when you're trying to build up all the social links.
Yeah, I mean, it helps if you're trying to build up your stats, because you do get stats for doing those. But
right, do your stats carry over into New Game Plus, or you have to build those up again?
Oh yeah, they carry over.
Well, yeah, there you go.
I've spent a good 2 weeks away from that game for good reason.
Yeah, it takes some downtime. I mean, gosh, for how much you did play, that's pretty amazing. But I really appreciate your insight. Like that's really great to hear from you. And I know we've been looking forward to talking about this in a very spoiler-filled context. So ZeroRanma, we can find you on Twitter at ZeroRanma.
ZeroRanma.
Well, thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate the time, and you have a good night.
Well, thanks for having me.
Of course. Joining us from New Jersey, Matt, welcome back to the PowerSwitch. Hey, let's talk some Persona 5. What are your thoughts on the game? Where do you stand with it? Tell me about your experience.
So it took me almost exactly an entire real life month to play this game, clocking in at a final total of 99 hours and 36 minutes.
Damn, that's awesome.
I began the game on normal and ended up dropping down to easy in the third palace. After just repeating the same hallway over and over.
Any particular reason why? Was it like, Muto or sort of skills that got you, or?
No, it's just like something like in the same area. Like I'd run into the same enemies every time. Like a different one would kill me though. And I hadn't felt like I had like been avoiding fights or was particularly under level or anything. But it was like at that point, it was either just start level grinding, which I didn't want to do, or suck it up and drop down to an easier difficulty, which my unwillingness to do exactly that in the past is ultimately why I have never actually finished Persona 4.
Oh, interesting.
Because just back when Persona 4 was new and relevant, I was unwilling to drop difficulty and just quit. And now I just my time is so limited, I haven't had the opportunity to go back and finish it.
Welcome to called being an adult, where your time is at a premium, so you have no shame in playing on an easier difficulty. I hear you. It's what I did right from the start. I was toying with the idea of going down to safety, and I might as well do so for the New Game Plus. But I wanted the experience of the negotiating with the personas and kind of building the compendium that way. And as Zero was saying on a past episode of the PowerSwitch, just a normal show, saying that if you're just dealing double the damage, like you're often just killing them and not even getting him in that down hold up state. So
yeah, safety is where I felt it would have started to compromise like having fun with the gameplay.
Kind of compromise the mechanics. Yeah. It's kind of like how I feel about Phoenix mode in Fire Emblem. Right.
It's like there's having an easier experience and then there's just not playing the game.
Right.
And if some people are just there for the story and just want to play the game, by all means. But personally, if I would feel comfortable just saving the $60 and watching it online, which despite Atlus's best efforts, you can still do with Persona 5.
Yeah, that's a whole situation with that too. Absolutely, with all the we'll loosen the bands, but still kind of keep them in place. Yeah, that's what a mess.
And also not enforce it whatsoever.
Right, and it's such a long game too that I can't imagine. Like that's got to be a very, very long watch. But then you got to think eventually, things like the Giant Bomb playthrough that it was so famous for Persona 4, or other Let's Plays like that. Like they'll pop up. They'll get there eventually.
So I ended up with 15 max social links, or confidants, whatever. They're still social links.
They're still social links. Yeah.
It makes sense to call the general idea of it a social link, because you can call the person a confidant, but you can't say that like you're leveling up the confidant. It doesn't work as well.
I mean, I love the theming in this game, with the confidants, in that like when they always flash forward to Sai kind of talking about like, well, you needed this kind of person to have this skill. Like, how is that? So like they were all important. They were all relevant.
Yeah.
Instead of Persona 4, like you had the mother, like the stepmother of that kid, and like ultimately pointless. You really didn't need to, like, I didn't even need to tutor the kid, but like everyone mattered here. Every social link mattered. And with the abilities and like who they were and how they all tied in, I love how that was all involved. But yeah, like call the active social links. Like that's what it is.
Yeah, and speaking of the way that it like flash forward to Sai, in addition to that being like one of the best framing devices that I've ever seen in a video game.
It's so cool. I mean, yeah, say what you will about in media res, it's a common tactic, but it was used so well. Just get you right in the action, then just keep going back and forth. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I actually I figured out what the last possible day to do free time before the interrogation caught up to see if the speed of the calendar ticking upward would adjust.
Yep.
And I managed to catch a video of it, and it goes up pretty slow. It's actually real funny to see.
Interesting.
So as far as like all the big story beats, Shido being the villain was like the most obvious thing in the world.
Clearly, yeah.
Like I was spoiled on it, but like there's no way to be spoiled on something so basic and simple.
It was a weird way for me to, I guess I was technically spoiled on it because, I had the soundtrack, months before, like when it came out in Japan, having the soundtrack there. And yeah, for Rivers in the Desert, early on it was phrased as, Shido battle, something like that. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what Shido is, don't know who that is. And it takes a while before the character of Shido is actually given the name Shido. And so when that's dropped, it's like, oh, okay, there's the mental connection. But by that point, like, you're already figuring out, like, well, he's the guy from the beginning and he's going to tie in and it's going to be fate all connecting. It's like, that really wasn't too bad. It was the same thing with Yaldabaoth. Granted, the tagging on the early, OST rip was JAL, which, kind of internationally makes a little more sense as opposed to throwing a Y in there. But again, like Yaldabaoth, what the hell is that? Like, okay, maybe it's a godlike thing, but I have no connection to it until it's dropped. Like, oh, okay, there it is. So, yeah, interesting to kind of be cursorily spoiled that way. But yeah, again, as you said, it's obvious. Like, come on.
Yeah, I also was like half spoiled for the fake Igor. I was looking up stuff about Igor in Persona 1 and 2 on the wiki, and they're like, oh, there's also a fake Igor in Persona 5. And like I stopped reading there. I had no context as to why there was a fake Igor or what he was doing, if the real Igor was going to show up. I didn't know any of that, but I knew that there was something going on.
Oh man, that's a bummer.
Yeah, and since I didn't know that the real Igor was going to show up, I didn't expect them to have the original voice, which in the Japanese version is archived footage of the original voice actor.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But the re-recording, getting a different actor, I don't know if there was just bad blood between the original Igor English voice, but it was just different enough that it was just like I recognize it's different, but I get what you're trying to do.
And as far as it goes with Akechi, obviously, it like the game outright tells you pretty much immediately on the loading screen that he's going to join the party.
Yeah.
I did not pick up on him being the traitor though.
Interesting.
When you see the man in the black mask murdering Okumura, I had actually I sent both Doba and Zero a message on Discord immediately as I got there, like, hey, don't comment on this. I'm just throwing this out there in case I've figured something out. But I noticed that Black Mask's character model looks an awful lot like Sai's.
Interesting.
So I ended up seeing the character model and going in completely the wrong direction.
Okay. Yeah, see, I noticed the beak, and so like that was just another kind of tipping point for me to kind of put it together. That's interesting you made that conclusion, though. I think you mentioned that Doba was sick and he wanted to be here. I wanted to throw out his theory that I think would have been really interesting that he had very early on of what if Mishima was the traitor, your moon social link. And it would have been really interesting. I think that would have been a really cool twist, especially with, very early on, he's just like, hey, you're the Phantom Thieves, right? I got this website and all this. And even the whole time, you can treat Mishima like crap. You can, just blow him off at every point there.
Continually deny the existence of the Phantom Thieves.
Exactly. But you could just, say like, well, how does he pick up so early on? And there could have been a moment, much like, other Persona moments where it's like, oh, that was the key moment very early on that we hoped you forgot about. I think that could have been an interesting twist if it were Mishima, but his story and character arc just got annoying, especially like, well, well, I'm the reason you guys are famous, right? And like, shut up, kid.
I can agree that he definitely got annoying, but I never got the impression that he was suspicious. But when Doba brought that theory up, I did think that it would have been cool if like he would have been an unwitting pawn. Like he would have accidentally sold them out.
Interesting. Yeah. So that was an interesting theory. I wanted to, Doba can't be here, unfortunately. And I know he would have wanted to bring that up. So I wanted to do so while we're talking of, possible, betrayers and whatnot. But, Akechi, so you didn't pick up on that one as easily. I mean, the reaction then you got when they put that all together.
I thought it was really cool. Doba must have been like laughing his way to the bank when I was like messaging him about Akechi, because I had seen like some people online offhandedly saying how much they hated him, and I was messaging Doba like, I don't understand why people would say that. Like, he's really sweet, really genuine. He seems really cool. Like, I was all aboard the Akechi train.
All he wants to do is find the truth.
Yeah, and like even after the reveal, I no longer thought that he was super sweet and genuine, but I still thought that he was really, really compelling as a villain. And overall, I came away from this thinking that he's probably the most interesting character in the game. Although I do feel like after his boss fight, when the whole team is like, oh, it doesn't have to be this way, you can join us, we can be friends, it's like, no, he's an actual murderer.
Yeah.
Like, I really love him as a character, but as a person, he's kind of a huge piece of shit.
Yeah. And to throw in the connection that like, oh, he's Shido's bastard son, and it's like, okay, well, sure, of course he is. Why not? Just make that happen. Make that connection. Sure.
It was contrived, but I think it worked because it set up like how it sort of set him up as a foil to Joker in a way, because Joker had also been like horribly wronged by Shido, but instead of turning evil and doing like taking pure revenge, he took what was given to him by that and became a hero.
Yeah, and then it kind of makes sense when you have Yaldabaoth kind of giving them both the power and just go at it, see what happens, just kind of create chaos.
Yeah, I will say it's very conspicuous that after Akechi's death, no one mentions him for the rest of the game. Almost like they want it to be really easy when they rewrite it for a re-release for him to be part of the party.
Yep, that makes sense. And Zero's mentioning in our chat at rhymeswithasia.com/call with the P5AG domain, wondering if it'd be Akechi Goro. Possible, maybe.
It is so conspicuous that like he's not even mentioned again, except for like one line about how Akechi really was Shido's son. Like that's the only time he's mentioned for the rest of the game, and that's also pretty easy to say that line if Akechi were alive. So I can see very clearly that if this game gets re-released, Akechi's going to rejoin the team.
Yeah.
And I actually did think that he was going to, too, right up until his death. I had actually, again, one of the things that I had sent a message to Doba about was, I'm really curious how they're going to put him back into the team.
Yeah, I think that was a bold decision, just to have it only be that short amount of time.
Which is something they've done before.
Right.
Too.
Right.
They did it back in Persona 3 with Shinjiro, but Shinjiro wasn't as heavily advertised as Akechi was.
Right. And I was going to say that they could have done a lot by not including him on that splash screen, on that title screen. Like, that would have sold it better if it was just like, oh, surprise. Like, he really is a party member as opposed to, well, yeah.
I feel the opposite. I feel like because he was advertised so much, that made me believe that he was going to be permanent. That made me feel that even as he was revealed to be a murderer, he was still going to rejoin the team. That's why I was like, I still felt that. And I never imagined that he would just die and that would be it.
For me, he joined too late. I think it would have been crushing if one of your main group of friends, like, had been playing you the whole time. Like, that would have been a devastating betrayal. But because like he had been a quote unquote enemy for so long in the media, and then he conveniently decides to work his way in, like there wasn't enough staying power for him to really make that connection. So you're still, for me, it was almost kind of still keeping him at arm's length. I had him in my party as we went throughout the casino, but it wasn't enough of an impact when it was a betrayal.
I think I'm inclined to disagree, pretty much just because I was so pro Akechi through the game and did consider him like, he is a close friend. I trusted him.
Yeah. And that really is dependent on how you perceive him right from the beginning.
Yeah, and then just like a general message of game mechanics. It was a good laugh during the big reveal scene when he tries to murder you, and it says Akechi has revealed his true self, and then the social link ranks up.
yeah. That was
it's like,
really
well,
good.
I guess you could say he's confided in me in a way.
Sure, and he knows that you're the Phantom Thief, because the really cool thing with all the social links maxing, and then everyone's like, by the way, I know you're the Phantom Thief. It's like that was a kind of cool touch.
Which did make sense for most of them, except for the politician.
Yeah,
that one was contrived.
A little bit, yeah.
Like everyone else, like when Joker's saying like, "What is his full name?" Like, tell me their full name. I'm like, Joker, you're being pretty suspicious right now.
Right.
Almost like you're a Phantom Thief.
Yeah.
But for the politician, it's just like, yeah, all I did was listen to your speeches, dude. I don't know where you're coming from this idea with.
Right. Well, not as obvious that they're Phantom Thieves as Ryuji, who is, I want to shout it to the mountaintops.
He has no indoor voice.
No. And it's been great seeing the memes like after the fact, after you've beaten the game, like seeing all sorts of things. You just posted something like on another Discord server where it's Sai and basically saying like when you find the Twitter account of your main suspect and it's posting all these dumb cat pictures and how he wants to smash your sister. Like, it's so good. Speaking of which, I believe you romanced Makoto.
I did.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
I agree with her code name. She is queen.
She is queen.
Makoto, it was like just generally perfect for me. I fell in love with like her character arc where like she was driven to be perfect, pressured to be perfect, and then she realizes that she's acting in everyone else's interests instead of her own, and decides to restart her priorities and like her path in life for what she wants to do instead of what everyone else wants her to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was the character arc that I was most interested in, and like just right off the bat, like when we first met her, even though like some of the things that she was doing weren't totally thought through, she was still very driven and still more intelligent than like most of the team right away. She felt like the most fulfilled character. I would say that the only other girl on the team that feels like a more fulfilling character is Futaba, but again, there's like the whole little sister thing going on there.
That was a tough thing to get over. Was Makoto not the cutest? Like before she was a member of your team, and like she's kind of snooping around you around town, like with the newspaper. Yeah, and like I was like, oh my god, just be more cute. And can I get some reassurance that Christmas Eve? Heartbreaking when like she knows that you're lying to her you have to turn yourself in, like it's with her sister.
All kind of do.
But I mean there's that extra tie with it's her sister.
That's true. I feel like I appreciated that scene because of its emotional impact, to the point that like I get really excited about scenes being well written. So when you have a heartbreaking scene like that that's supposed to be really sad, I'm just like, yes, this is so good. This is so well done. Like, I'm into this. When I was talking to Doba about it, he said like, it was a bummer and his whole mood was brought down. And I'm like, no, it was great. Like, it was awesome. This is such great writing.
It was a good writing, but yeah, it was tough.
Yeah. But it is definitely a very emotional moment, and I think that especially, knowing the way that Sai thinks, Makoto would probably piece it together a little more fully than everyone else does. Rather than just feeling that something's wrong, she would probably be able to guess exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
I know this is like spoiler casts in general are supposed to mainly be about story stuff, but I really appreciate all the gameplay stuff that happened in Persona 5 too. Like, the palaces were more fun than any other dungeon in the entire Persona series, because they felt like fully formed places that were very carefully thought out. And there were like really special moments that I was feeling as early as the first palace, where like you would find new ways to get further into the palace from the same starting points, like without even fast travel necessarily being a thing. And it's like, that's where I realized like the level design in this is so much cooler than we're used to from Persona, with like obviously Persona 3 having only Tartarus being procedurally generated, and Persona 4's dungeons being largely uninteresting, in my opinion. All that on top of the way that combat has been enhanced with the auto target button, and just being able to switch through your personas much more quickly. The baton pass being one of the coolest additions to the combat.
That was great. Yeah.
Being able to send it over to your other party members. I feel that there can be some argument over like whether this game has a better story than Persona 4, but I think by and far, from a gameplay perspective, this is the best Persona game that has ever been.
Oh, definitely. And I'm so glad that, people are getting in on the ground floor with this game. Like, because it's a great place to start, and so many smart design choices. It may be tougher to go back for those people because it'll be stripping away some of those refinements. But it's so good. Yeah,
a lot of my friends have been playing Persona for the first time with Persona 5. I've got a coworker that's playing it for the first time, a couple friends from school that are playing it for the first time. So many people. This is like they're getting into this series now. This has been the series for me for some 10 years now, and it's finally made it big here in the West.
And then that's so great to see. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. And I went into media production fields. I was in radio and stuff, and it's like it's a very personal thing to me that the earliest recorded thing of my voice that I can find is my review of Persona 3 on Show Me Your News 10 years ago.
Yeah, for my podcast, yeah.
As far as I can tell, that is the earliest recorded thing I have out there. And Persona was there with me on the earliest example of what I was doing for the rest of my life. So, like, having a brand new Persona game and having more people than ever get into it, April was one hell of a month.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned that review. I mean, that's where I first heard of the series, and so that means a lot to me as well. So, like, it's kind of set us all on a course, and it's just great to see a lot of people. I mean, the news story come out that Persona 5 was the most downloaded game on the PlayStation Store in all of April. So, like, it's doing great, and it's really great to see. Yeah,
in the end, like you said earlier in the show, for pure Game of the Year's sake, I don't think it's going to beat Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild was just such a new experience that it fundamentally changes game design as a whole. But Persona 5 was just such an amazing thing from start to finish. Yeah, there were some terrible things throughout, like the entirety of Okumura's palace and the fucking rats.
Oh gosh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the pacing of pretty much from exactly when you start talking to your friends in the Velvet Room up until the point that you actually start fighting Yaldabaoth.
Mm-hmm.
That entire hour's worth of content
it's a long slog, and like they were much more difficult enemies too. It's like they really just stepped up the grinding there. Like, oh my gosh.
It was an hour of unnecessary padding in between some of the best stuff that the Persona series has ever had to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the pacing of the game just entirely grinds to a halt. Mm-hmm. Like, talking to all your friends in the Velvet Room takes forever.
It does. I liked the moment, though. Like, I think that was nice, but it could have been sped up. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking on YouTube. It is a half hour just talking to your friends in the Velvet Room.
Oh, man. I didn't even realize.
And then an entire new dungeon, the shortest dungeon in the game, but still an entire dungeon.
Yeah,
before you get back to the final boss fight that you thought you had already started.
Just make it 2 or 3 levels, especially when you gave, a save point or a heal point with Lavenza there. Like, if you need it for grinding, just make it a couple floors and then just go on.
On the whole, like the ending was very good, but for an hour there, the game just.
Yeah.
And I had decided actually right after the previous episode of the PowerSwitch was recorded, I decided I'm sitting down and I'm not standing up until I finish this game. And I finished at 5 a.m. And when I was in the middle of that big grind with the 5 mini bosses, I almost decided, nope, this is going to wait till tomorrow. But I made it, and took till 5 a.m. to do it. But by God, I did it.
Oh, that last one was tough too. whether it was Michael or whichever one, whichever archangel it was. So man, that was, and like, yeah, he heals himself. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Well, he had DR Han.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
like,
so upset.
That was so bad. Oh my god.
But I will say that Yaldabaoth has the best named attack that I've ever seen in any video game. Manifest Gun.
Yeah, that was a neat design with just all the different different sins manifesting in different ways. Yeah, that was really cool.
It's not quite as cool to me as Nick's avatar cycling through the tarot and like explaining what they mean, which I think was the coolest moment in video games ever, and actually got me genuinely very interested in learning tarot and the major arcana and everything.
That still has yet to be topped as the best final boss, like theming and everything, and the music. Oh my god, that's
But Yaldabaoth still ended up being a pretty damn cool final boss.
Yeah, for sure.
So
no, but it's great to hear your perspective. Glad to hear another Makoto romancer.
Yes, the best of us.
Yes. Oh yes. You find you on Twitter at Grimace Dumenis.
Yep, you can see me failing to play pool in Yakuza 0.
I gotta find the next game I'm getting back to as far as story goes. I've been messing around in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, having a good time with that, but like the next story game, I need to get back into it. So
I'd say Yakuza 0 is a good story game to move on to, and it takes place in a realistic depiction of Tokyo.
Well,
so
there you go.
Not a bad transition point from Persona.
Just gotta get that up higher on the GameFly queue there.
I walk down a street in Yakuza and I'm like, this feels an awful lot like Persona 5. Not gonna lie.
That's a pretty seamless transition there. Well, Matt, thanks for calling in. Really appreciate your perspective and time.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you later.
All right, see ya. And joining us from California, Rita, welcome back to the PowerSwitch.
Hey guys, I'm so dead after this game.
Oh yeah? Well,
I'm so exhausted, I can't play anything else.
Well, we're here on the Persona 5 SPOILERcast. I'm anxious to hear what you had to say about the game.
I had a lot of fun with this game. I avoided everything I could from like the moment they announced the game, because I knew going into the game I just wanted a completely pure experience, and I did get that for the most part up until a certain point. Somebody got spoiled.
No.
Somebody got spoiled for me.
Oh, man.
I was watching this video about like just grinding in Persona 5, and the person in the video just happened to go to the character menu and scroll through, and I saw Akechi, and I was like, oh, well, guess, I mean, it's kind of, like we were talking about earlier, it was implied that he joins the party because he's in the splash screen and stuff, but still, I was like, oh, well.
So you went through all of, not only the Japan release, but the American pre-release hype. Did you not like aware of any of the party members really, or?
No, not really.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I was pretty aware of everyone. I mean, even with the different videos and like knowing the voice actors and seeing all that. So like, that wasn't really a surprise for me. I think the way that some were implemented, Futaba, for example. I mean, Futaba, how she joins the party, and I did not expect that, doing the whole like, stealing her own heart, and she has this just heartbreaking backstory. And even like, I knew that your caretaker was Sojiro Sakura. I knew that her name was Futaba Sakura, but like Sakura, it's a pretty common last name. They don't look anything at all alike. Didn't totally expect, the family connection there, even if it was, this Wakaba Ishiki and that connection there. So I think, that was a little bit of a surprise, but I mean, wow, to go into the game, not even knowing like who your party members are, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I knew like Ryuji and Anne.
Yeah, because it's very early on, yeah.
But still, yeah, it was just a lot of fun not being spoiled for anything. Just like some of the more dramatic parts in the game, like when Shiho tries to kill herself.
Oh man, that was fucked up. Like so early on.
Like, what the hell, Persona? This is just like out of nowhere. And I'm like, that's when I knew this game was like serious shit.
Yeah, it really, really set a tone.
I was eating dinner and I like just stopped. I just stopped. I put my food down. I was like, what the hell? I need a minute.
That kind of reminds me of Life is Strange. Kind of had some tiebacks there.
Yeah, this game is so dark compared to the other ones, I think. Like, there's way more adult overtones, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and when you're talking about, the evil, corrupt nature of adults and how they can oppose their will on society and how to break free from that, yeah, you're gonna get some dark topics. I mean, all of the 7 deadly sins implemented, where you had lust with Kamoshida. They're just all over the place. It's kind of cool to see it all break down, especially in the trophies. It kind of listed that out there.
But yeah, just general stats, I guess, for me. I played on normal through the entire game. Didn't really struggle. I don't know. The times that I did die were pretty much my fault. Like, I let that happen, but I never felt like I needed to lower the difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
I finished the game at 112 hours, 30 minutes. I didn't max many. I maxed Haru, Chihaya, An, Ryuji, and I think Kawakami. Yeah.
Interesting. They were some really helpful, skills, especially when you max them. I spent, it was quite a while to get strength maxed up because, all the fusions and whatnot. Use a guide.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't trouble yourself with, doing all that. But they have a really interesting ability. I don't know if you want to spoil on a spoilcast, but
I mean, I've never looked into it.
I mean, it gets up to a point because a lot of them it's just like, we've made this possible with some of the fusions, but the max one they really sell it's like you're gonna love it, and it got to a point where when you max the wardens, the strength social link, you can fuse personas that are higher level than you, but you have to pay a cost difference. And I'm like, that's really neat. Like, something that they've never really done before, but yeah, make it available through a social link skill.
Yeah, these social link skills just like really change the game for me.
Mm-hmm.
They make it actually worth it to talk to your friends.
Yeah.
And then another social link thing. So here's my sad story of Persona 5. So you know how you like can check the network and see what people do, right?
Right.
I was seeing this went to part-time job. I was like, what the hell is that? I just never looked around in the lower parts of the station for a job because I didn't realize that the book stand is where you go to get a job.
That was pretty easy to miss, yeah.
So I went through maybe 90 hours of the game. Never got a job. Never started the social link.
Wow. Damn, that sucks.
So I have no idea who the politician guy is.
Oh, no. On the social link topic, I wanted to mention probably one of the biggest flaws the game is. You mentioned how they can easily. It may have been like a passing conversation with a student to say like, oh, part-time job here, like that's pretty easy to miss. But the one thing that the game did not explain at all, could have wasted your time very easily, was Sojiro's social link. You get that started, and it hits a certain point, kind of around rank 4, where you can still spend time with him. You can still build up those points, but it takes until after the Futaba story stuff to be able to actually continue it. And if you spent a lot of time, like, it's like, God, when is he going to rank up? I want to make more coffee, make more curry. And the game just does not hint at all that's like it's a standstill. It's like just dead points. That would be really frustrating. I think that's something they have to fit in a Redux version, a director's cut, what have you.
Yeah, I didn't get curry until maybe late November. Because I just didn't feel like maybe I was doing something wrong with Sojiro, and I just never bothered to keep trying.
Right. Yeah, that was unfortunate. Something I can't believe I didn't mention or put in my kind of talks at the start of the show. Your party that you used for the final boss.
I think it was pretty even out. I think I used everybody at one point.
Yeah. I think that helps. It's everyone was at least good in some aspect. For me, my final party for the final boss and all that, it was An, Morgana, and Makoto. I just wanted to at least have everyone have a heal ability. So
for the most part, most of my game team was just Makoto, Haru, and An, because that was a good balance of stuff.
Yeah.
And, I guess I just used Morgana as heal after the fact of fights.
That makes sense. I mean, I probably use the auto recover way more than I should. I know it's more expedient to actually go into the skills and do all that, but it was easier just like I just want to keep going, just keep moving. Yeah.
but yeah, as I said earlier, I did choose to romance Haru, and that was the most stressful time of my life.
Oh, yeah.
Because you get her so late in the game, and it was like, do I want to finish this palace as soon as possible, or do I want to really like?
I think I think it took me literally until the last day, and I was able to max Haru's social link. Granted, her in particular, when it goes to the whole like, your next words are important, choose carefully, and it's like either I love you or let's be friends and all the romantic or platonic. Most of the women, girls, what have you, when you choose the platonic option, most of them were okay with it.
Really?
They were like slightly disappointed. Okay, fine, but like Haru, upset, like, well, could you please leave? Like she was like actually distraught. I'm like, no, like it's not like, oh come on. So that made me think of, I knew you're playing a Haru run there, but
yeah,
it's just like, oh man, like that. Her out of all of them, granted, did not make Makoto a platonic choice in my run, so I don't know what that's like, but brush it off, like pretty much from what I remember, like was totally fine with it.
Yeah.
But like Haru was shaken, so that sucked.
Yeah. Oh man, but speaking on An's social link, it really bothered me.
Mm-mm.
It wasn't really about her.
No, it wasn't. And she wanted to be so many different things that it was just not consistent in toning. Well, one day I'm going to be a super villain, and like finally, okay, model. And then the rival model got like an actual picture. I mean, Shiho got a picture. Like, it's like, who's the most important character here?
I want to date the other model instead.
She seemed more capable.
Oh man, but yeah, I was really tempted with Kawakami. I know that's what a lot of my other friends went with, was Kawakami. But the thing that kind of just threw me off a bit was like, the first guy you go against was Kamoshida, and he's a teacher, and you're going against like, oh well, the teacher shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff with the student. Yeah, and it's like, well, what about Kawakami? Does that just make it better?
I'm special. I'm the wild card.
Oh man, but no, her rank 10 thing is so useful.
Oh gosh,
I can't wait to do that in New Game Plus.
Yeah. Oh man, at the end of the game, it's totally helpful.
And then by end game, I was level 94 because of Reapers.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah. So that last like slog of mementos was like nothing, because I was just like Ryuji's skill that just kills things instantly if you're high enough level.
Oh yeah.
Activated every single time, and I never really fought anything.
That's awesome.
And then the climb up to the final boss was really easy too, because at that point nothing mattered, and I was just killing everything. But yeah, the 5 mini bosses, or 5 or 4.
I want to say maybe 4 archangels.
The only one that gave me trouble was the last one.
Yep.
And it didn't honestly take that long for me because I was so over leveled, but that might have been my problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was oh god, and then was he the one where he was spawning the angels and then they were using Vikarmda to sacrifice their health to heal him? It's like, stop it. Why?
Yeah. That's what they were doing in Okumura's palace with the boss.
Oh, see, I found that boss to be pretty easy because you had most of them you already knew their type weaknesses. So yeah. I read something interesting. Who was it that told me? I apologize if it was, someone in our community and all that. But they're talking about how apparently it was designed so that the shogi girl Hifumi was apparently supposed to be a party member.
Oh yeah,
and it kind of makes sense when you think that her skills really apply to like the tactician and swapping party members out like that. That makes sense. But yeah, there's like, the story was getting a bit long, so they trimmed the content. Like, yeah, that was probably for the best decision because the game is plenty long enough as it is. So,
if not for Haru and her coffee, I would have dated Hifumi.
Yeah. Haru did have a good character arc. It was a good social link overall, and with like the pressures of the business and all that. Yeah, it was good.
people talk about Makoto's Christmas Eve being heartbreaking. Try Horrors.
How so?
I'm sure like a lot of them are like that, but I don't know. She was just like, of all the people, I thought you'd be able to tell me what you were hiding, and I was like,
man, it's such a rough moment, for anyone, I'm sure.
But talk about endgame personas. I went through most of the game with Shikioji because of Reflect Physical and Reflect Gun.
Mm-hmm. I had him for quite a while as well. Yeah.
And then Gary McCullough came along. I just kept him for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think I upgraded eventually to Rangda for a little bit. Yeah.
But then I also had Shiva, Satan, Mother Harlot, and Mora.
Gotta have Mara.
I didn't even use him. I just needed him for novelty.
Yep, of course.
I feel like it ended really well, though.
It was a good ending. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It was the right ending. But I think they played a little safe on the emotions because Persona 4 was heartbreaking to actually leave
every single time.
To actually leave, and this one it's like we'll go with your friends. They played it safe, and it does open the door up for more adventures for sure. But yeah.
So apparently, I don't know if I'm like in the minority about this, but like when Akechi sacrifices himself, I'm like, good. I don't care.
Yeah.
I never felt anything for Akechi throughout the entire game.
I think it really depends on how he first came across to you. I mean, we had Matt just on, and like that, it was a big surprise for him for the betrayal to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it really depends on how I think you interacted with him. I mean, when he sacrificed, I thought I guess that's noble, but it gives us the chance to get out of there. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, when they were like, you can be better. You can come with us. I was like, no, he can't. The soundtrack in this game is amazing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I don't think anybody else commented on it, but I can't stop listening to it.
It's God tier. It's God tier level. It's so. I'm going to be listening to years to come. Years to come.
Yeah, I think Alley Cat is probably the heaviest song in the game.
Alley Cat's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Life Will Change, obviously, is probably the best one.
It's so good. I love seeing memes with Last Surprise.
Last Surprise memes.
They are just the best. Whether with the Raiders of the Lost Ark and the guy swinging the sword and he just pulls out that gun, bam, weak. Oh my god, it's fantastic.
I think the best part with the last mini bosses is just to have Life Will Change play the entire time, because I caught to Willpower or other boss music.
Oh yeah.
For the mini bosses, if they just kept it Life Will Change throughout that entire climb up to the final boss would be pretty cool.
I agree. Yeah.
I love this game. I don't think I love it more than Persona 4 Golden because I still need this time to sit with me, and I appreciate the cast and the characters they're iconic right now, I think.
Yeah.
But they're not as iconic as Yukiko or Chie yet. But given time and another 10 years until Persona 6, I
have kind of an odd theory kind of just bubbling in my head where I wonder if the iconic nature of the Persona 4 characters right now has something to do with the color theming. Because red you associate with Yukiko. I mean, blue, Naoto could be a blue, purple, Kanji, green, Chie. It's these kind of colors you can always associate. And what is there with the Phantom Thieves? It's not as strong of parallels there.
Yeah, but I love the Phantom Thieves, man. They're so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I felt really badass as Joker.
Yes, absolutely. And flipping the tables on that plot with using the metaverse to have the fake one killed, that was so cool.
And at that point, not being spoiled for that stuff, that was holy shit! Did I just get the bad end?
Yeah,
no, I didn't.
Yeah,
this is how it's supposed to be.
I was just talking to someone else in our community this morning, and he was going through the ending. I don't think he finished in time for this, but he was just saying did I get the bad end? It felt like I got the bad end. I'm like, well, as long as you didn't didn't give up your teammates to Sai, you're good. Just watch out for the check in the Velvet Room, and you're good. It's a really special game, and I'm glad everyone's had such a great time with it, and I'm really happy with it. But yeah, I think it needs some more time to settle in and be on that iconic level and see what kind of spin-offs there'll be and how it really takes advantage of this mainstream popularity.
Persona 5, carding all afternoon.
Beep beep. I'm just now thinking like, last surprise, blue shell.
They got to do something. Morgana's a car.
Morgana's a bus, a cat bus. When the cat bus connection happens, like, holy shit. Well, Rita, thank you so much for calling in. Really appreciate your insight. People can find you on Twitter. Let me remember. It's Calistegia.
Calistegia, but the L is an I.
The L is a capital I. So I really appreciate you calling in. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
And that'll do it for this episode of The Power Switch. We are hosted by rhymeswithasia.com, and we're on YouTube and Twitch at rhymeswithasia. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Power Switch. You can email us any questions, comments, concerns, or opportunities at powerswitchpod@gmail.com. You can subscribe to The Power Switch on podcast services such as iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And if you could be so kind as to leave a review, that would really help as well. Most importantly, to participate during future episodes, you should join our community on Discord by visiting rhymeswithasia.com/call. It's a small but growing community, and in these early months of the show, it'll be easier than ever to have your voice heard on this podcast. Thank you for joining us for this Persona 5 spoiler cast, whether you're listening now, just fresh off of beating the game, or, it's months down the road and you're finding this on YouTube or on those podcast services. Hopefully this has been a little cathartic for you to get to talk about that game, to hear discussion about that game in a different way than I think most other spoiler casts on podcasts would go. So find us on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. For normal episodes of The Power Switch, we're coming up on E3 discussions. We're almost a month away, so I know our next podcast episode there will be talking about a contest we'll be doing with E3 yes or no predictions. We'll have definitely just thoughts on E3 a month out and some predictions there. So looking forward to that. Hope you join us for that. rhymeswithasia.com. Check us out there. Thank you for calling and tuning in. Find us on our Discord channel, rhymeswithasia.com/call, and follow us when developments happen there. Regardless whether it's live or on your own time, I look forward to you joining us for our next episode. With that, I am Peter Spezia. Until next time, switch up, call in, game on.